What if we divided all government responsibilities into 30 sectors? So the president is not over all the areas of government. Each department head would now be considered the top dog, the top president. You would elect a president based off of each one of the aspects of government, from the top environmental guy to the top regulator over food, to the top regulator over banks, to the top commander-in-chief, and he commands the full military, to the top diplomats, a separate organization. So let's go over the 30 different sectors that I propose. I do 5 in the charity system because we get rid of welfare altogether. All your money that was taxed for welfare will now have to be contributed to charity. We do that through sector number 2, a charitable distribution association. 5% of GDP has to go to your chosen charity distribution association based off your worldview. Then they will fund the charities in sector 1, but they will also use the case managers called charity assessment organizations in sector 3. Family law will have its own sector of government, and they will deal with divorce, marriage, kids, custody, all that kind of stuff. Religion, that's just there to fight for religious liberty. Nobody can ever regulate religion, at least within reason. There's a couple things that you can do overboard in religion. So there is that. That's current law as well. In the foreign protection system, we break down to we don't have one president that's a top diplomat and the top commander-in-chief. We separate those two things. You elect a top diplomat to make sure you are communicating with other countries. But if it calls for war, the commander-in-chief takes over and they use the military. The military is a separate organization or sector of the government, and they will make sure that we have a good functioning military paid for by 5% of GDP, and that'll be sales taxes throughout. So that'll be funded from all the states from sales taxes. Military Authorization Agency, they authorize anybody with military power, anybody really within this whole foreign protection system. Then we split the violent crime mitigation system into 5 sectors. People making laws, the prosecutors, all in making laws around violent crime, and the prosecutors dealing with violent crime. That will be in sector 11, and the prosecutors will be across the whole all 30 sectors. Law enforcement are just the people actually with the gun, from sheriff to police departments and the like. Law Enforcement Authorization Agency, they authorize anybody with a badge dealing with government power, law enforcement like stuff. The court system will have its own president, own legislator, people who concentrate strictly on court policies, and the like. And that will be profoundly important when it comes to civil liberties as well. Prisons and corrections has its own sector, own legislative bodies, own executive bodies, own judicial bodies. All 30 have all 3 branches. So you have somebody concentrating on that. The healthcare industry, I break it into 2 sectors, one dealing with doctors and the doctor regulations, and one healthcare medicines and medical equipment things. I split it. Now, most likely they're going to work very closely together, but I split it because it's just so big. Financial, I split 2 also. Financial regulations dealing with banks, and then everything else financial. And the banks will be competitive currencies. Each financial regulatory body will have its own currency. So I want to have 1,000 different currencies. There's a way to do that. Look at that page. Insurance, you have its own separate sector of government dealing with insurance. They're going to be taking over the Social Security and transition into competitive Social Security, competitive retirement systems, take it out of the general budget and move it towards a system of individually controlled accounts and the like. There's a lot to that. You can have a socialized system where you choose to go into that socialized system currently, like we currently have now, or you can choose to go more individual retirement accounts controlled by your retirement system, but you get to pick which one, so you get to pick one with a lot of liberty in there as well. The over top of food, that's a big area. A very large amount of dollars, and safety of food. So you're going to have competitive governance in that as well. Education, competitive school boards, and like, but that's a huge area of what are we spending? Probably 5% of GDP on that. We can go a lot more free enterprise when you have competitive school boards, competitive governance in that area. Human resources and sales, that's going to be collecting sales taxes, dealing with human resources and collecting sales taxes to fund the military. And most of these things are a vast percentage is going back to statewide power, where a lot less going to federal power. The foreign protection system, the 5 sectors in there, that's federal power. All the other 25 sectors are going to be primarily in the state sector or the state level. Manufacturing, that deals with a lot of things. A lot of things get manufactured. So probably the vast percentage of the dollars going through there, but a lot of different competitive governances in that. I kind of went out of order. Identity, personal and business, dealing with ID cards, dealing with ownership rights. They will take, they're going to be in charge of voting. They're going to be in charge of a lot of different things dealing with ownership and voting and the like. There's a lot to that one. Environmental law, obviously, you're going to have competitive governance in that. You're going to elect a leader just for environmental regulation. So you can concentrate your vote on your worldview based on their candidates looking to represent you for environmental law. Work safety and disability, that's going to be a catch-all for anything that you don't see here. Any department that you don't see there, it's probably going to fall into that one. Or Sector 29, media and communication, dealing with the media and communication, newspapers, TVs, anything out there considered media and communication, and a catch-all for other departments that's not listed. Sector 28 is transportation, competitive roads, how we switch over to competitive roads, a private road system, and the like. Land and water, a big part of the advancements of society was private ownership of land and private ownership of water, water rights and different things. So there's many videos and pages on my website dealing with each one of these, everyone with a significant amount of bullet points to it. Until the next video.